Hey guys, what's up? It's Lizzy Jane. We're back with another episode of the Lizzy Jane podcast. This week we have SOUNDR and Dani King joining me. They are amazing vocalists, lyricists, writers, and producers. They are known for some of your favorite top lines with some of your favorite artists in the electronic dance music community. SOUNDR just had a song drop with Adventure Club and Blank in the last month, as well as Dani King dropped a song with Tsunami on her debut EP via Bitbird. These ladies were so wonderful to get the chance to speak with them about their own projects and their journey as being a top line vocalist within electronic dance music. I was super excited to discuss some of their personal experiences, social media, splits, and more. Don't forget, you only get these episodes ad-free on my Patreon. The link is linked below, www.patreon.com/thisisLizzyJane. I just opened up some more spots for lessons this month, so head over to the link, check out the content that we offer. Feel free to send me a message, a DM. I respond to everything. We've got sample packs, vocal packs, tutorials, and more exclusive content from the podcast. As always, make sure if you are loving what we're doing, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like, comment, share with a friend, follow us on Spotify, follow us on Apple Podcasts, follow us on Google Podcast. It means the world. Without further ado, this is Lizzy Jane, and you're tuning into another episode of the Lizzy Jane podcast. The show today was brought to you by VitaPLUR E-Boost Gum. With no pill to take or powders to mix, VitaPLUR E-Boost Gum is a first-of-its-kind energy rave supplement that provides magnesium, electrolytes, and antioxidants while you chew. VitaPLUR is the perfect complement to my active lifestyle, whether it's at the festival, on the road touring, or hitting the gym. Chew VitaPLUR and dance with confidence. Use code LizzyJane for 10% off any order. All right, guys, we are back plugged into the Lizzy Jane podcast. Today, I have very special guests here. I have two beautiful vocalists and producers in the EDM world. On the top left, we have SOUNDR. Her name is Kate, and I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. On the bottom, we have Dani King. You guys have been just killing it, and it's so amazing to kind of see this movement that has started within our scene and community, like paying homage to EDM vocalists more, and to the point where, you know, I see EDM vocalists starting to get their own sets at festivals, and people just like paying more attention, and the artists making more of an effort to tag you guys and make sure you're credited for your work, because for so long, the people who I would say is debatably the most important part of the track has just been kind of put aside. So it's really awesome to have you guys on today. If you guys just want to briefly introduce yourself for our listeners, whoever would like to go first. Kate, we can
That's all you.
Go on, Dani.
Hi, Lizzy. Thank you so much for having us. I'm super stoked to finally get to chat with you. I know we met once at Lost Lands, which was super fun, but for everyone else, I'm Dani King. I'm a singer, songwriter, vocalist. I do vocal production. I do produce. I am currently learning how to DJ, so I can be one of those vocalists doing my own sets, but I'm California based, and I do just about everything, but I mostly focus in like the bass scene and dubstep.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, we're really happy to have you on. Yes. And how about you, Kate?
My name is Kate, SOUNDR. I am Salt Lake City based. I've been doing top lines for a long time now, like 6 years, I think. I got my start in punk bands, alternative bands. EDM kind of just completely fell into my lap, but top lines have been an incredible way to kind of step into that world. Vocalist, songwriter, have my own projects, write for other people. Yeah, it works.
So awesome. I mean, it's really cool too, because not only are we coming into, I don't know how to say it properly, National Women Month or Month of Women or whatever.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, today. I didn't know it either until I saw it on a Twitter group. I was like, oh, okay, we can be honored this month.
Twitter groups are all blowing up.
Yeah, no, exactly. You guys wear like
a lot of hats. And like what I see, obviously, like as a producer, where we kind of have to obviously DJ and we travel and we make beats and stuff. Like a lot of us have to wear those multiple hats in order to make money. And whether it's teaching lessons or having a Patreon, you guys are so involved in the back end of the songwriting process. And I know both of you guys now, when you I know there's so many different ways that you can be approached to be a part of a project, whether it's your managers reaching out to see if larger artists are looking for top lines or somebody comes to you all, vice versa. Are you guys kind of taking things by a case by case basis, or is it more so like, hey, we have an inquiry for you. We're looking for just a top line, or is it we want you to write the lyrics, we want you to do the top line, and we want you to process your own vocals? How is that kind of varied throughout your experience as being a vocalist?
For me personally, I just recently started doing my own vocal production. For example, I used to pay an audio engineer in the studio. Yeah, Dani is helping me so much, which is an incredible thing to be able to grow and help each other instead of like the competition that sometimes happens between women. But I really prefer to be hands-on with every part of the vocal. I don't really care so much for being handed a set of lyrics, like a top line someone else had written, for example, that they want you to sing. I have done that. It's just not necessarily my favorite thing because you're not putting like there's not that part of myself in it, if that makes sense. But I think all of the things that you mentioned are things that at least I do. You know, top line, melodies, vocal or lyrics, taking on other people's stuff. I just recently wrote a song specifically for a male vocalist, which was a really fun opportunity to kind of step into something that's like a totally different perspective for me. So yeah, all of the above.
That's sweet. That's awesome. And what about you, Dani?
Yeah. Honestly, same. I do a little bit of everything. I'm with Kate on that. I don't really love being handed lyrics that are already written just because I don't have like an emotional connection to them. I think I've done one song where I was like, okay, this song is sick and I'm really excited to be singing on it that I didn't write personally. So most of the time I'm doing most of my own lyrics, melody. I do like massive harmony stacks. That's like my favorite thing in the world. And then I do all of my own vocal production. I'm like pretty strict on that for a long time. I kept on getting back these songs that like were not well produced. Like the vocals were not well done. And I just got so tired of it that I was like, I need to learn how to do this myself. So
Absolutely.
taught myself, got like much better at that, was able to do it myself. And so now I not only do my own vocals, but I help other people with vocal production, teach vocal production lessons. I've been helping Kate get her vocal production going, like all that kind of stuff. So
it's an art in its own.
Yeah.
Oh
and on top of that too, like I sell so usually when I get a song, I'll write like 2 to 3 top lines for that one instrumental, and then I'll take the other 2 and I'll repurpose them to sell them. And a lot of times I'll pull the production out from underneath and I'll put my own like MIDI chord progressions in and stuff. And we'll sell the top line with the MIDI chord progression, stuff like that. I'm trying to get more into the like co-producing side of things too. Not just doing top lines, but like top lines is what pays the bills right now. So that's what I'm sticking with.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. And I can't even imagine kind of giving your vocals out and knowing how your voice sounds. And we do kind of live in this world where there are the tools, whether it's Melodyne or Waves or Nectar or whatever out of the box that can make your voice sound, you know, not like you, like a totally different version of you. But to get something back where, you know, your vocals don't sound as quality as they should be is probably the most frustrating thing. I can't even imagine because
Yeah, it sucks.
and it's also I kind of dabbled in that a little bit when I was working with my past management where we would like shop out top lines, and like I'm someone that my vocals is not like a traditional like EDM pop vocalist. And I think you guys both both of your voices are beautiful, but they are unique. And they're not like this like jack you top line. Like I need somebody who can like belt to a high C and follow the exact scale. And I think that's awesome. And there's like a type of vocalist that should be there for that. But when you can really like implement yourself into the song and like hear your vocals and hear your emotion, I can't tell you how many producers like I've sat on buses with or sat at festivals with, and they're just like, we just want to find vocalists that like care about what they're doing and like have that emotion in it, or it's not going to like connect with their listener. And I'm seeing, you know, women like yourself starting to like really like rise up and take those places where like those lyrics are coming off like the board of a song and like are really audible to the listeners, because it's really hard to achieve that, especially if somebody fucks up your vocal processing.
I definitely appreciate that. And I agree. Like Kate and I do not have traditional EDM top liner voices. Like I'm basically a tenor, so I'm not gonna be belting too many high C's for everyone to hear. But then Kate has this like wonderful ethereal, like floating voice that I just love. I love your voice,
funny.
Kate.
Thank you. Back at you.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And like it's cool to also listen. Like it's kind of like a producer where you listen to a song of theirs and you know it's them, like whether it's Skrillex or it's Seven Lines, and then you listen to a vocalist and you're like, that's them. And I feel like that's something like
that's the goal.
Yeah, that's the goal, you know. And I first discovered you both from Swarm, from Brandon.
Yeah, the man.
When you worked with him, which is like so awesome, and he finds these like very unique vocalists that now you guys are like doing your own thing. But I'm sure there's, you know, hardships and experiences that you all have gone through that, you know, have not left the best taste in your mouth of, you know, I don't think a lot of producers know how to properly work with vocalists or properly work with top liners. And I don't know if you can like share a little bit of insight in that or some stories that you guys have. That would be sick.
Oh my gosh, I'm confident there's so many.
Go in. You have all the time.
Yeah, for me, it's such an interesting, like the top line world is so interesting because I came from, like I said, bands. So it's a very collaborative, very hands-on, very equal process, if you will. And with top lines, it should be that way, in my opinion. You know, the vocals they're talking about are such a major part of the song, but there tends to be this like stigma that vocalists are not real artists or as capable as producers or as talented. And it's just like, oh, we're going to get a vocal and it's no big deal. You know, they can just pop one out whenever they want. There's no effort into it. But yeah, I think it takes getting to a certain point in yourself of like confidence and saying, hey, this is how I will be treated. This is my process. You know, here's my voice. Essentially, if you don't want that voice, there's other artists you can go to, but kind of finding that boundary where when somebody approaches you, you're not afraid to ask to be treated how you think you should be. So it's less about like telling other people how to treat you or like changing other people's mind, but holding that boundary yourself, which is kind of an interesting juggling act. I think takes a long time to get to that point.
Yes. I definitely think that I'm lucky. Like 95% of the people that I work with are incredibly respectful, like really do respect me as an artist and like my knowledge and expertise, because like Kate said, a lot of times people don't think of vocalists as like real artists, or we're just like not an important part of the collaboration, which is like kind of insane because most of these songs that have like lyrics and melody would not be the same song without that. Like they wouldn't be as popular, like truly. So I'm really lucky that most of the people I work with are really nice, respectful. They respect my opinions. They respect my writing and like what I want the song to turn out as well, or like how I want the song to turn out as well. I just recently had a bit of an experience. I had to make a post on Twitter about it because my manager told me to, and I was just like, this is so awkward. So, and I think Kate will like understand this too. Being a top liner, we do have to be flexible and like be open to negotiating terms and understanding that everyone's coming from somewhere with a certain kind of budget. And just being open to talking, and like, it's okay if you can't dip to their budget, but just being respectful of everybody. And so we my team, as you were saying earlier, my team both cold pitches out to other artists, and we have artists reach out to us. Like I got the Swarm collab because we cold pitched out to him.
Okay.
Like I found him and I was like, I want to work with this guy. So we did that, and that's how I got that collab. Do that all the time. So we were doing some cold pitches, and we got an email back from like a large artist manager that was like, the email said, word on the street is you're selling your top lines for $2,000. If that's the case, we're not interested. We'd like to be able to negotiate. And we were like, what? Like, first
so
of all,
hostile. Geez.
it was so hostile. And I was like, what? Like, who said that?
Yeah.
First of all, that's not my vocal fee. Second of all, we negotiate always. And third, for big artists, like often we will waive our initial vocal fee to go after label advances because that's a totally normal thing to do, right? So we went back and said that, and then they never responded. And I was sitting there thinking, okay, so someone's talking shit and it might have just cost me work. And I'm like, that's so rude.
That would piss me the fuck off. Yeah.
There's so many sides to that though.
I know it was
like
so
if you my thought, and I think we talked about this, is like if your top line fee was $2,000, there's a reason for that.
Yes. And I did get messages saying good for you if that's your fee. You should keep it like that. I was like, I love you. Thank you.
Then, even if it is $2,000, you are always gonna be in a place where you're like, yeah, let's negotiate. And for somebody to come at any artist, vocalist or otherwise, with that energy of like, if you charge this much, you're not worth it, whatever. It's just like, why? You know? Yeah. And that goes back to what we're talking about with vocalists being treated differently than other artists in the industry. Like, okay, let's say a producer's getting booked and they're like, hey, my booking fee is $2,000. And somebody emails like that, like, there's no way that would fly.
It was very weird. I am actually very glad that the guy emailed and told us that was what was being said on the street, whatever that means. But because it made us aware that someone's been talking and someone's been lying, like straight up lying. Because
so weird.
Obviously that's not how we operate, especially when we're the ones cold emailing people. Like,
yeah. And I feel like every situation can definitely be different, you know, and like I mean, I imagine the flip being switched, and like if somebody went to, you know, him or his artist with a booking offer and said, you know, they said, okay, we're going to offer you 500. Okay, no, well, we're worth 4,000. And the guy goes, well, your act isn't worth that. Do you know how much any manager would go the fuck off? Like literally go off. And I mean, it's definitely, I think across the board, the larger the opportunity, unfortunately, a lot of the times, the less you're going to get compensated for it. And exactly what you said, like if you have this opportunity to work with a really awesome artist who has an exclusive deal on X label that you've never been a part of, that could allow you to be a top line vocalist for that label for other artists, and you go for the label advance fee versus charging that artist right off the bat in their team. I mean, that's 100% the right move. Whereas if you have, you know, maybe a startup project that doesn't have a huge discography, that doesn't have a lot of listeners, but they have the budget to get someone like you, then yeah, I'm $2,000. Like everything is a different kind of way out, but it is unfortunate where you do see this back end of our industry that gets really ugly sometimes. And like, I don't know if you guys saw the thing on Twitter about the Gareth Emery email.
Oh my God, I just saw that and was like,
I did not see that.
Okay, so he's about to put out an album that I think he's worked like 3 to 4 years on. I would definitely say it's more of a radio friendly album because they were doing pitches to whether it's label play or certain radio stations, and what'd you say?
Isn't it trance music?
So I don't think his new album is trance. I think his new album is really pushing this gap from what he's known for, which is trance, out into a more marketable field. And that's why they were doing these pitches. However, no, I don't know the backstory. But the email that he received back was basically like, you make music for druggies. You should stay in your lane. And like it was from a very high credited like person from a label. And I think that's just like, artists get these things that happen to them sometimes from people who don't understand art and people who don't value art. And it's really disheartening. And it's so crazy to see somebody at such a high experienced career level as Gareth Emery, going through the same shit that people like all of us go through. And it's crazy to just see like the infrastructure of how it goes all the way up like the board. And there's still sometimes just people who are really just like senseless, and it's insane. And it just, you would hope based off of experiences like yours, Dani, that other people take notes to hopefully not spread some untrue things, or the fact that I would never sit down at a table and discuss my booking fee with other artists. It's just something that stays like off the table, and every situation is different. And especially as a vocalist, you guys have so many factors that can be different, that can cause certain things to happen. And like, as far as like a label advance fee for like our listeners, do one of you guys want to like explain that?
Sure. So basically, there are multiple ways to make money off of releases, and one of them is to request an advance from the label. So basically what happens is they pay out your royalties in advance. So let's say you sign a song to Monster Cat and you ask for an advance fee. So they'll give you your advance fee. Let's say it's like $1,000. So then what they do is they recoup that fee out of your royalties. So all of your first few royalty statements up until that number is recouped are often zero. Depending on the label, sometimes they'll recoup part of it and pay out part of your royalty fees as it goes. So it just depends. It's all in the contract. That's just generally the basics of like how a label advance works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm sure, Kate, you've just had some massive back-to-back releases. And I mean, like, you just had to
did.
No, I know. I keep seeing your name pop up and I'm like, damn, I was like, they're both killing it. Like, they're both it's really hard. And like,
it's a lot of hard work. It really truly is.
And to get yourself with, now, would you say like for the Adventure Club song or for the blank song, are these things that, do you have a manager? Did you guys pitch these out? Or was it something that came through a mutual friend? Or do you have personal relationships with these artists?
Sure. I have only had management, I think, a year and a half.
Okay.
I think it was December 2020. So I built my career by myself before that, and was cold pitching, everything. And that's a lot. So thank God I have my team now. They're amazing. But the Adventure Club track actually is kind of interesting how that came to be. Fancy Monster, another incredible act. They reached out to me and I wrote a top line for them. And then somehow Adventure Club heard it and wanted to be a part of it. So that's another thing that I think is important to note for anybody that wants to step into that, or even producers, is like this, every opportunity you get, treat it like it's this big deal, because you don't know what's going to happen. Like Fancy Monster is incredible. And I had no idea that it was going to be even more so that way. Like it was going to grow that way and get placed with Adventure Club. So I'm really grateful that we took on that project. And now it's out. It's an amazing thing. And they also provided a really interesting writing opportunity because they wanted a top line based completely in fantasy. They didn't want any like real life emotion or anything. So it was really cool to see. And then the blank song, that top line is actually 4 years old, 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. I know. It's so weird to like have it be placed and then get released and step back into the emotions that you had when you wrote that so long ago. It's just like time travel or something. But that was a cold pitch, I believe. My team, works closely with Pat. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Okay, wait. What does fantasy writing mean? Explain that, because I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I hadn't either. I was so excited. So I am a huge nerd, huge horror fan, huge anime manga fan, everything. So when they were like, we don't want a love song, we don't want a breakup song, we want you to just like create this other world. And that song is actually about a vampire.
That's crazy.
About how it feels to be undead.
Wow.
which
There
is
I mean,
so cool.
but that's so cool because I feel like, yeah, like when I sit down to write, I feel like my mind goes to breakups or love
Your own
like,
experiences.
or your own experiences. Exactly. You're like writing about where you're at currently in the hopes that other people will be in that same situation
Right.
and be able to relate to you. But that's like such a unique writing opportunity that they're trying to create more so of an environment or like a state
Yeah.
or story.
It
And
was so
I think
cool.
like music video would be like really fucking cool.
Oh my gosh, I would love that someday. That'd be so cool. But yeah, I was really thrilled to have that opportunity because you're right. More often than not, it's like, okay, I always ask the producer if they had a certain emotion or story or something in mind when they send a top line. And usually it's like something on cliche, I guess, like love song or whatever, breakup song. So to have it be so different was a lot of fun.
That's really cool. And like when you guys are like writing to eventually send out like clean top line pitches to producers or vice versa, do you guys kind of have like a wheel that you spin on that you're like, I'm going to write about this today? So like you don't have all of your like songs sound exactly the same? Or is it like, I'm going to write in this key and I'm going to write in this BPM and I'm going to write a story? Like I'm going to like dive into this character? Or is it just like, I feel this way right now and like this is how I'm going to write? I'm sure you have a bit of both.
Both.
Yeah, it's just a crapshoot for the day usually.
Yeah. Like Dani and I recently wrote a song that we were like, just
Halcyon?
preface before that. Yeah. So
Yeah,
preface
so
before that,
fun.
like for me, when I'm writing a top line, I will just listen through it and like hum different melodies. And if there's like a word that I hear or like a cadence or something, I'll try to find a word or phrase that fits that.
Mhm.
And that kind of leads to the content, like the story behind it. But with the song that we wrote, we were just really like shooting the shit. Like, what would be cool to write about today?
Yeah.
And I think you Googled.
Yeah, we couldn't really think of like a subject because we needed it to like fit a certain artist, and it needed to be kind of this like almost fantasy, like ethereal kind of vibe, right? So we started looking up Greek mythology, and we came across the like Halcyon and Kex love story. And so we decided to like write using that theme because Halcyon means like 3 different things too. So we we found that and we were like, all right, well, we're just gonna run with that today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that also is something that you and I are very good at too, is like finding really unique words and unique ways to tell stories. And we're both very lyrically focused.
Yes, very much
we don't really write like pop, just like this basic pop song is very in depth. And every time we write, there is like purpose and thought and a lot that goes into not only the melody, but really for sure the lyrics.
Yeah. When I'm writing more like songs that are supposed to be a little bit more like commercial style, I literally have to like stop and be like, tone it down. It's okay to put this line in. You might think it's corny, but it's not that corny. Chill.
That was Dani like coaching me through this house song that I was writing. I was like, I don't know what to do with this. Please help me. I want to like tell this intricate, beautiful story. And she's like, dude, just chill.
It's how it needs like 4 lines and it'll be perfect.
Oh man.
It's hard to turn it off sometimes, but no, I like to write in like a combination of different ways. Sometimes I'm like, a lot of times I try not to treat songwriting as like an emotional outlet because like it is my job. And if that's my emotional outlet and my job, then I'm going to have a problem. So I'll set aside, like I write during the day, I write during like office hours. I set myself office hours. I work that way. Only occasionally will I step outside of that. And if I'm stepping outside of it, I'm usually writing something just personally for myself. And so working that way is really interesting because I can draw from my own personal experiences, but I'm looking at it from a little bit more of like a clinical aspect, if that makes sense. So I'll go on like Rhyme Brain and just find a bunch of words that I love. I'll go on thesaurus.com. I'll look up stories like we did the other night. Like I try to do a little bit of everything to keep it interesting.
I think, I very similar to where I feel like you doing top lines for a living, you have to have that separation.
Yeah, like desperately.
Yeah, especially like having our own projects too. You don't want to just like dump everything you have into every top line because you have to, reserve some of you for your own stuff. So it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition of like, yeah, these are beautifully written, whatever poetic songs, but they also are just like random that day.
Yeah.
Some random word that I thought was cool that day.
Yep, exactly.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that's like what you said, Dani. That's such a good point. And I think I'm in a position right now too where I'm like doing all these things to feel like artistically fulfilled, but like none of that includes writing electronic dance music. And
Yeah.
so having like your office hours where you're like, okay, I'm clocked in, like I'm doing my top line, I'm finishing this remix, I'm finishing this collab, and like this is what I have to do to send this off, and then like go and I'm gonna do my own thing and I'm gonna do like what I feel like. But it's crazy because we are in this profession where you reach a limit, and like I tell my students this all the time, where like your ears kind of burn out. I feel like as a writer, like you also can only like you can write so much, but then you have to like reflect, and you're looking at what is quality, what can be pushed forward, what should be sold, what should I keep for myself. And exactly what Kate just said, you guys both have your own projects. So that's a whole other differentiation that you guys have to say, these are sellable, this is commercial, this is great for EDM, and then this is what I want to keep for myself. And now I know that like Dani, you're more on the route where like you're looking to stay in EDM, you're looking to DJ, you're moving to that transition where, you're going to be able to have your in-ear monitor, you're going to DJ, you're going to sing very Corella, very me, very Lucy, very Jaina, kind of like moving in that direction where Kate, you're like totally indie pop, punk pop, kind of that, because you already had an EP that was released where you were totally doing your own thing. So, I mean, I would love to know a little bit more about both of your own projects and how long you guys have been building that up as well.
Yeah, I'll go. I guess I'll go. So my project is pretty much exclusively alternative. Lots of pop punk, but like alternative pop in there as well with the previous EP. But I also feel like that EP for me was very much testing the waters of where I could go as a solo artist. Having done EDM for so long and developing as a vocalist and stuff like that, it was really cool to step into really every song on that EP was a different genre. And now after doing that and taking some time from it and some space, what I'm working on now is just like a whole other level that I have always wanted to get to, but have never had the confidence to do. So I think that EP served its purpose, but I will also say that that's like not the sound going forward, I guess. Like
it's good to have a different variety of sounds. I feel like now more than ever, people are seeing that like, don't put yourself in a box. Don't put yourself in this one.
And that was exactly what my goal was with that EP, was like, this is my first body of work outside of dance music. I want to show that I'm not going to corner myself into this. I want to write pop punk. I want to write alternative. I want to write pop, whatever. And yeah, now the focus really is like 2000s grunge alternative inspired, like Linkin Park kind of stuff, Yeah. And that's where my roots are. I love emo, screamo, post-hardcore, metal. Like that's my thing. So to be able to go back to that and step into that world again is so nice. And kind of going back to what we were talking about with like scheduling throughout the week, top lines versus your own project. I have a tendency, I mean, we all do, to just go a million miles an hour, work 100 hours a week, whatever. So it's become essential to me now to say, here are my scheduled top line days. Here are my scheduled SOUNDR days. Here's a content creation day here and there. In that, having those days for myself kind of keeps me going writing top lines, because I feel like if I was only doing that for forever, I personally would not feel fulfilled. So it is like having a day job and then doing like your passion project, I guess.
Bless you for having a schedule. I feel like
it is so hard.
I've tried and I've failed a lot of times.
Yeah, I actually just was having this conversation like the other day where I'm big on mental health. And for me, I feel like now, because I've only recently started doing music full time. I had a full-time job before that. So now it's like, I know that I'm demanding so much of my brain. I know that I'm demanding, we write 2 to 3 top lines a week. We write SOUNDR stuff every week. So now I have to create a life that's conducive to that. You know, what does my schedule look like? Am I eating right? Am I drinking enough water? Am I getting sunshine? Am I going to the gym? You know, whatever. Am I sleeping? And even like plants and stuff like that. You have to like make a life that's conducive to how much you're demanding of your brain. But I don't have it all figured out, but that's the goal.
It takes a long
We'll
time
get there.
to figure out. I'm 3 years in and I'm still figuring it out. And like it gets to be a lot sometimes because you constantly are like, I've worked so hard to have an opportunity to do this for a full-time job. And now that like I'm here, you have to almost like take yourself out of your own body and be like, this is Dani King, and this is Dani, and this is Lizzy Jane, and this is Lizzy, and this is SOUNDR, and this is Kate.
Yes.
Yep.
It's really easy to just feel like you're sitting on the couch and you're like, I should be doing this and like
100%.
watching
Oh my God, I can't turn my
and
brain
turn
off.
my phone off. But instead I'm like, why aren't you in your room writing? Why aren't you
Mhm.
doing this? Why aren't you doing something to better yourself? Because if you did it right now, it could make a change in where you're going. And it's like 100% bullshit. And your man just like,
It's so hard to stop though. It's so hard.
it's literally it's just insane. And like, how do you deal with that, Dani? Kind of that differentiation. I mean, I know you said like you kind of have your office hours and then you have your Dani hours, but are you doing this full time or are you still balancing some other forms of income as well?
So I am currently full time. I had to go full time when the pandemic started because I got laid off from my bartending job. I bartended my way through college. I bartended my way into this. So
Yep.
that was an aggressive amount of work just in general. I remember at one point I had 3 bartending jobs at a time and I was still trying to do music. And it was just like, that was the year that I burned myself out. And I didn't write music for like 3 months. And I promised myself that I was like never going to do that again. And the reason why that happened is because I didn't take a single day off for like months. And so my new rule, even when things are absolutely bananas like they are now, like I've been terrible about actually sticking to my office hours because I've had so much to do and so many deadlines coming up. I've been working till like 11 every night. But my number one rule is to take one day off a week. Sunday is my manager's day off, so Sunday is also my day off. And I do whatever I want to. If I need to do my laundry, if I need to go to the brewery and get drunk with my friends, like whatever. That's Sunday's my day. But I'm actually kind of the opposite of Kate. I love top lining. I love it. I love writing for other people. I love writing with other people. Like I love the collaboration. It's actually really hard for me to set aside time to work on my own project because I am like so just like deep into working with other people because I love it. It's so much fun for me. So I at some point this year, once I get a handle on the insanity that is my schedule right now, I need to actually sit down and take time to figure out like when is going to be the first Dani King release? Like, how am I going to do all that? What's going to happen with that? What songs do I want to hold on to for myself? Because right now I like everything I write, I pitch everything. And if someone doesn't want it, then I'm like, that's fine. I still love it. I'm going to take it back. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and it's also like you have to take a step back and be like, oh my God, I've helped create so many visions for like other people for their projects. And now, like, what do I want mine to be? And I'm sure that can be kind of crazy too. Cause like I suck at collabing because like I'll take back a collab and I'll like delete everything the person did. Or I like just won't do anything and I'll just be like, okay, I'm just gonna like do a little like thing here because I'm like so kind of controlling of like a certain vision. So I can't imagine it being like just giving yourself to like be a part of like a lot of other people's work where like you are an integrated like asset to that project, but it's like not completely yours. And like there's this like middle line of beauty of like being a part of something so much like bigger than yourself. And then having this thing where you're like, yeah, I did everything here. Like this is all me. Like this is it.
Yeah. And like so far I've really thrived in that like collaborative effort. Like that's that's my bread and butter. It's what makes my heart happy. Like I really do genuinely enjoy like collaborating and creating something with someone else. Like I love that. So it's daunting for me to want to step back and do everything myself. But I'm like excited. I'm getting more excited about it as we go. Like, but it's very daunting when it's not something that I've done. And especially since I definitely still feel like I am a newer and building artist. Like I'm still very small. So I'm still trying to build up a little bit more of a fan base and a little bit more of an audience. And I just think I'm going to have a better opportunity to do that releasing solo projects.
Absolutely.
So like, I got to get on it.
No, well, I mean, everybody's journey is like so different. And I think a lot of people like reflecting on like where I'm at personally right now is I do believe that everything that happens in a journey of like an artist's career is leading to like a decision in the future. So like you have to do everything you're doing now in order to do what you want to do like in the future. And what I think we're all still up and coming artists, like 100%, where like we're still pushing our fan bases. We're still trying to get out there. And what you're doing is like you're positioning yourself to so many different demographics by you both being top line vocalists so that you will develop this following. Like I use like Haleen as a really good example where she's developed this following off of singing on all these guys' tracks. And now she's like, I'm going to, still sing those ones live, but I'm going to do my own thing and have my own tracks and do my own production or buy production and have that as an instrumental in the back. And I think that's really awesome too. And I definitely think she's one of many that will, soon be, A to Z billings on festivals in the future. 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
I think top line artists are in a super unique position like that too, because there's not very many other avenues that I can think of off the top of my head where you are involved in so many different genres, so many different projects. You are integrated into different fan bases and all of the inner workings of that. And I think that gives us a unique advantage also in, maybe not advantage, but a unique avenue in building our own projects. Like you said, having access to all of those different fan bases and also the learning process of working in so many different genres and finding what your voice is suited for or how you want to tell a story or like who you want to interact with, who you want to write with and be part of their project,
Definitely. And like just how you were saying that you guys were kind of writing together the other day, do you guys have like a small group of, I would say like other vocalists or other writers that you guys kind of bounce ideas on and off of? Or do you primarily kind of work within your own like realm and then, share it with the artist that you're doing a top line for or share it with somebody who's like close to you?
I do both. I have a lot of girlfriends and it's all girls too, which I love. I have a lot of girlfriends that I'll bounce top lines off with or I'll like do co-writes and stuff with. But I pump out top lines so fast. I just kind of do it and send them all out.
Like it's really amount of top lines you write in a month is mind blowing to me.
It's like actually atrocious.
How many would you say? Ballpark.
So many. 3 for each instrumental.
Yeah, pretty much 3 for each instrumental that I get, and I get like 7 to 10 instrumentals a month.
That's a lot.
I write a lot of songs.
Do you ever like butt head to head with the person you're like writing for? Like, does that ever happen?
Often.
Okay. Because I feel like one time I did like a top line when like they were trying to be like, hey, we're gonna like do you as like a top line, and I was like, ooh, I have like a really like unique voice, and like I don't know if that's gonna like really work out. And they were just like, we need it to be like poppier, and I was like, well, I don't have a pop voice.
I hate that.
Does that ever like happen to you guys where they're
all the time? Like, like here's the thing, I'm always open, and part of the collaboration process is collaborating. If there's something that they want to hear, a lot of times they'll have great ideas, and I'm like totally down for it. But sometimes I'll send something back, and my response will just be like, that's not happening. Sorry. I like it. I like it this way. And and I'll send them the comparison side by side just to show them like, this is not going to work. And 90% of the time they're like, okay, no problem. It's very rare that it actually goes any further than that. But yeah, I'll put my foot down when I need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are usually really great about collaborating. But again, it comes down to that boundary of like, you get to a certain point in your career with like the confidence, and also you just don't have time to argue those points. Like, you're coming to me for this vocal for a specific reason. Like, you reached out to me as a vocalist because you've heard my voice, you like the style. So if you don't want that, let's find the vocalist that you do, you know? And if you do, like, let's work on it. Let's find the middle ground. Let's collaborate and make the project good for both of us. But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting juggling act for sure.
Do you guys
For real.
usually?
No,
Oh wait, go for it. Go.
sorry. No, I was gonna say one of the reasons why I write, like, so when I say I write 3 top lines per instrumental I get, it's usually somewhere between 2 and 4, to be honest. And I'll write half top lines. So I'll do the verse and the chorus, and I'll send them all of them. And I'm like, pick your favorite. And then from there, we'll write the rest of the song and we'll do all the edits there. So that way, by the end of it, there's no revisions. We wrote the song together. You chose that. So like, that's going to be the song.
Yeah.
And if you're coming back after we're done with the vocals being like, hey, so I changed my mind, then it's like, there's a bigger problem there. That's not me.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting to listen to like other top line and vocalists process, because like Dani's process we could not be more different.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like how fast your brain works and how the capacity that you have to write is just mind blowing for me. Where like,
thank you.
I definitely, oh my gosh, I respect it so much. And it's so cool that like everybody's on an equal playing field, you know, like your process is different than mine and nobody's better than each other. We have so much to learn from each other. And I'm grateful for that. Like you're asking about process. I write 100% on my own, like all the time. I think actually the first co-writing session that I've had in forever was with Dani. And
it was so much fun.
It was fun. I am also just like such an introvert that it's sometimes, I don't know, writing sessions are very unique. It's a very unique experience where you kind of have to have chemistry with the other person for it. If you're like butting heads or like trying to be better than each other, it just doesn't work. And I've had some interesting experiences with that. But yeah, my process now is just, I wake up, I make coffee, I sit at my desk, and I just write top lines or write for my project. So it's so interesting to see how everything comes together when it's just completely different processes, like very individualized ways of doing similar things.
And I mean, I think that's like the cool thing about being an artist. Like you can do it however the fuck you want to do it, like as long as it comes out with that process. And I mean, it's the same with me. Like after COVID, not only do I feel like I kind of got out of like my 21-year-old like party phase, I think it was like I went right from that into COVID. And now I'm like, the podcast is my way of being an extrovert, and like the rest of my time I'm like, and I don't even have to leave my 4 walls most of the time, which is like 100% yes, like fair game. But yeah, I mean, do you find that you have a lot of competition in the field of being a top line vocalist?
I have 2 thoughts on that. When I first started, I felt so much competition. Like there was no one to go for questions. There was not a friendly answer in the game. And so in, 2015, 2016, I'm like, what the hell is a top line? Like someone asked me to write this. I don't know what that is, but like, I think I can write a song for you, you know? So back then I definitely felt that. And I'm confident that a lot of it was like imposter syndrome on my part too. But there's also been, over the last few years, this huge shift of female artists and EDM acknowledging that we're all going through the same shit. We all face the same struggles. We all have the same obstacles. And why are we like fighting with each other? Like maybe not fighting, but there's no competition. It's more supportive and compassionate, and people are working with each other, like female producers, vocalists, everybody's working together, and it's so much healthier. And like for myself, having female friends in the industry now is like a very stark contrast from when I started. So when I started, I was like, man, it's going to be like a mean girl situation. Like, I just don't want to go back to high school, And now it's like some of my very, very best friends are female artists in the industry, or, anybody, maybe not even artists, just like females in the music industry that support each other.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's because we've all like crossed this bridge where like when we started on the bridge, especially because of I think how the industry was a few years ago as well. And of course, there's still not enough roles for women. There's still not enough women on lineups. Like there's still so much further to go. But I would speak to Jeannie and, when we kind of started, like I would say like 4 years ago, we really only knew the top EDM, producers who were like Alice in Wonderland and Rez, and Whipped Cream was coming up. And then there was like, we knew like 5 girls in like every corner of the United States. And that was like our kind of, chatting back and forth. And then at the same time, we were always told that there was like only one slot for a female. So it was like this programming where you had to take a step back and go like, I really fuck with this person, but yeah, like they are my competition and like they are someone who's potentially going to take an opportunity or take a booking from me. And now I feel like there's so many women on the back end of the industry and the front end of the industry where there is a demand and there's a call from the consumers for more women. So it allows it to be a little bit like you still see it. There's still instances where you're like, man, like, why can't you just try and put on another girl? Like, why can't you just try? Like, there's room for everybody, and there's so many different lanes in which women can be successful. But it's definitely so pleasant to see now where I suck at like chatting back and I suck at like being parts of groups online, but it's amazing to see that it's there and that there's women like participating in it every single day and being supportive towards other women. Cause like that's the only thing that I think the change will come from within. And the fact that like the consumer and the people buying tickets wants it calls for the agents and the talent buyers to like meet their needs for us being there.
I actually like 1,000% agree with what Kate said. Like I started doing top lines in 2015.
Okay.
So yeah, about 7 years ago now. And I didn't know any women in the industry, like literally not a single one. And so when I moved out to Los Angeles, cause I went to college in Nashville. So I moved out here and Kara actually went to the same college as me and had the same voice teacher. So she connected us and Kara was always super nice, and like really like friendly. And then one of the other girls I connected with like fairly early on was Sarah Skinner, who was also like, she's the first person who gave me any sort of vocal production advice, which like that kind of behavior has really inspired me moving forward. And like, I want to do the same and pay it forward for people that are entering the industry as well. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like it used to feel like it was really competitive, but I literally don't feel any sort of competition anymore, especially because like my management company is like almost entirely made up of top liners. So, like sometimes I'll get a song, like if someone sends me a hardstyle song and I'm sorry for everyone that loves hardstyle, but I really don't, I really don't love it. So that's okay. I'm not saying it's not good. It's just not for me. So if someone sends a hardstyle song to me, I'm going to be like, this is not for me, but there's another artist on our roster that loves hardstyle. Let me connect you with her. Like helping people get opportunities, trading contacts, giving new people advice, helping people break into the industry when you really believe in their project is like, I love that. Like, it's really important to me because not a lot of people did that for me. So I want to create a better environment moving forward.
That's like, like that's what I think is amazing about like what I see now is like all these girls are like, I just want people to not make the same mistakes I did.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's funny too that like Kara and Sarah were both, some of the first people too that I worked with and gave that advice. Like I went out and stayed with Kara for a few days, and that was actually my first experience in co-writing and songwriting people. So it's just like being able to be in a position where you feel empowered to share that with other people is so important. And like you said, we didn't have that. We had no help until, a certain point. And those people that did step in and provide that information and guidance, it's like a life-changing thing. because then you're like, yep, I'm for sure going to do that. I want to help other people find their lane and find their confidence and literally find their voice, like how to do this, because it's not this unattainable, unreachable thing. It's just very nuanced, and sharing that with other people is a huge blessing that we have.
Definitely. And like some of the people that have been the most instrumental to helping me, especially as far as like learning vocal production and learning production, are the people that I collab with the most. So like Omos is my production teacher. Like he's the one that teaches me how to do all that stuff. And then Highland is the one who taught me vocal production. And he and I like he was my bar back when we were bartending. And so we did a collab together, and this was right when I signed with my management, and I brought it to my manager and she was like, this guy's amazing. Does he have management? And I was like, nope, here you go. So brought him into the team, and like everyone on our team always just tries to work in a very collaborative fashion like that, whether it's working on music together or teaching people something new or sharing information or sharing contacts or promoting each other's music. Like that's just kind of the goal, is to like bring everyone up together.
Yeah. And that's like super awesome, because there are definitely teams that don't work like that. And
which is baffling to me. Like, what?
Yeah, there's quite a few. And I think you are in like a super special place where like you are working alongside people who are like really like looking out for each other and like with like-minded individuals. And that's like so awesome. Speaking of Sarah, I actually just came across her new project today.
Killboy, yeah, she's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
I had no idea. Cool. I had no idea, because I actually I'm about to reach out to her to come on the podcast when she's in town. And because my friend was like, oh, I might be TMing for her new project. And I was like, oh, I had no idea she had a new project. And then I looked at it, I was like, what the fuck? This is fucking dope. Like, this is so
cool to watch like her path and her growth. Because that's like, she's always wanted to do that. It's never been about just exclusively top lining. She was like, this is what I want to do. This is my vision. I'm going to go get it. And she did. And she did very quickly.
Absolutely smashed it too. I think it was like her first 2 or 3 releases were all on New Music Friday. Like it was nuts.
She's killing it.
I know.
So good to see.
And it definitely like shows that it is obviously possible. And there is that crossover where you can take someone who's simply been a top line vocalist and develop a full independent project where, you know, if top lining isn't their long-term goal, they don't have to do that forever. And like, that's really cool. Cause you do have to definitely like look at your priorities and say, okay, like I need this to pay the bills and I need to do this. And my whole thing is, as long as it has something to do with music or teaching music or being in audio engineering, I'm all game for it. If it makes me money and like I can take it on, like I will do it 100%. And I think like, as long as you have that skill set to do it, as long as you're working in, you know, what you're pursuing, your passion in, then like you're pretty much winning. Like even if it's
absolutely, exactly. We're so blessed. Like the fact that we even have the opportunity to do what we love for a living is like something that should never be lost on us. Even though we're constantly like chomping at the bit to grow and, you know, pursue different opportunities, it's like the fact that 1, we know what we love and we are passionate about, and 2, we're good at it, and 3, it's our career, is like an absolutely incredible thing.
Most people in their 20s still have no idea what the fuck they want to do with it. Yeah. Like for real. And like I knew from like a very young age, and I think a lot of people who are doing this now at our age did as well. But knowing and like doing and taking action to actually make it happen, that's even a smaller percentage of people. And then getting to the point where, you know, you have enough opportunities to not be a bartender, to not work a finance job, to not have to do whatever, is another level of like gratitude. And like definitely I have my moments of bitching and complaining. I think we all do, you know, but it's also taking the step back and saying, okay, we are definitely fortunate enough to live, you know, in the world that we live in the country we live in, where we've been able to get up every day and do what we want to do. And like, we have a roof over our head and we're able to eat and we're able to do whatever. And like, sometimes that becomes lost in social media and it becomes lost in like the rat chase. And we just live in this age where, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? Because I've seen this ongoing argument lately of the content creator versus artist.
Oh God.
And
Oh, I
My
wait.
soapbox. Oh no.
I did
Oh,
weigh in on that
no.
because I do have some feelings about it.
yeah, go.
I hate video content. I hate it so much.
I do too.
I'm so awkward trying to make TikToks, and I don't know how people just do this. Like, and also I just like don't generally have time to sit down and like record a bunch of covers because I have 16 open projects right now. Like, I literally don't have time.
You're trying to create
Yeah.
lasting.
I'm not a video editor. This is not my forte. And so something like what I love to do, I have a photographer that I adore. He's one of my best friends. I really like to get together with him and create photo content and create beautiful, beautiful art with him. And that's really fun to me. So the problem that I have with social media right now, specifically Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, not Twitter, because Twitter is just
Shit
Twitter
posting.
is what it is. Yes, it's shit posting, and I love that. But the problem I have with Instagram trying to chase after TikTok is they're getting rid of photo content when they are literally like the top photo sharing app. And it's like, just stick with what you're good at.
Thank you.
Like, and let the people who are good at it stick to what they're good at.
Yeah.
Damn it.
It's just, and it's great. I literally tweeted about this the other day because I have like no cap deleted and restarted my TikTok 5 times because like I literally
No.
feel like I like lose brain cells when I'm on it because like I like look at things and I'm just like I'm trying to fight against like high schoolers. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I'm fighting against high schoolers to create content that is like trending that doesn't really have to do with like my job or my life. Just to maybe have like a song pop off. And like I use like Zingara as like a really good example because she's used that to her extent. And you can't ignore the fact that it is this platform to market yourself on, and there are huge beneficial factors to it. But it is upsetting to see platforms that have existed for other purposes, like Instagram, like Facebook, all targeting the reels now. Now, there is like a little voice in the back of my head that goes, okay, well, now you can just do like one form of content and da 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 da. But I feel like you're just chasing something that's like never ending and it's always changing and the algorithm will always be different. And it's like this never ending rat race to figure it out, to be able to use it to like the highest potential. Cause you do see people use it and they get opportunities from it and they become successful and they do X, Y, and Z. But for the majority of people, I feel like in our industry, like social media for the most part is used as a marketing tool and it's not directly like putting money into your pocket. It's not directly like offering you this like world of opportunity from the one viral TikTok of you impersonating like Justin Bieber. Like I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Social media is like my soapbox.
Yeah.
I am so much a mental health focused person. And my projects, that's what I'm about. Like me as a person, I'm always texting my friends, like, how are you? How's your brain? Let's talk about it. And social media is designed to take us out of what's actually happening in our brains, right? Like we're scrolling, we immediately get a dopamine hit. We're addicted to removing ourselves from ourselves. That being said, if we can find ways to use it as the tool that it is, like my therapist, actually, I was venting to her about this because it's something that I genuinely struggle with. And she's like, set a timer. When you have to post, go on for your 15 minutes. And if you find yourself going to go on social media after that, like ask yourself, what am I distracting myself from? What am I running from? Or whatever it may be. But it is such an incredible tool that it's like, I actually had a conversation with JP recently about it because I was like, I hate social media. I don't want to do TikToks. I don't want to do this. I resent it. Like the punk roots in me are like, no, not happening. And he was like, we just have to find ways to put ourselves into it. Like my life is not glamorous. You know, I don't make millions of dollars a year. I'm not having fancy breakfast every day, but like, this is who I am. This is why, this is like what I'm sharing. You know, if it's just me hanging out with my dogs, whatever you are, whoever you are, find ways to put that in there. Like I'm not going to freaking go do a viral TikTok dance.
No.
It's never going to happen. And that's okay. You know, for me, I really genuinely believe my managers would be so happy to hear me rant about this because for so long I've been like, not doing TikTok. This is not happening.
Yeah.
But it really is just like, this is who I am. This is what we're doing. And if the music is there and the music has the soul and the passion and the purpose, social media will follow eventually. Like people have to be there for the music before anything else. Or to me personally, there's no freaking point.
I absolutely agree with you. And I think that's the thing too, is that like with this like viral chase that we're in, especially at hitting like my generation, the generation above me, and especially the generations below us, is like you're hot one day and then you're not the next. Like I don't know
Oh my
how
gosh.
how to not mean girls say it, but like that's literally what it is. Is like you can pop the fuck off. Like I use little like tweets that like go viral as an example. You'll have like 10K people like a tweet, and then the next day you tweet about a podcast or you tweet about music, and like nobody gives a fuck. And like that's how TikTok is like you're chasing this thing that's never gonna stop. So you have to find that balance of like putting yourself into it, using it for the tool it is for what your career is, and
Stepping
then
away.
like letting it go, because it doesn't like those actions are not permanent actions, and like they're not creating something permanent in the world. Like, yeah, they're permanent for the day, like they're going to be on there forever, like the TikTok is there, whatever. But doing that and then doing something that's going to impact somebody's like life or like make them care about something for a longer period of time, like music, like what we do every day, I feel like holds such a high importance. And it's just like finding that balance of the bare minimum that you can still be present and then going and doing your thing. But some people love it, and like hats off to them.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
actually do love
another
social
thing.
media.
It's such a
do.
cool tool. It's so cool, especially the photography aspect of it. Absolutely love it. But I think another thing that's very unique about the music industry or entertainment industry in general is like when you own a business and you're making socks, you market your socks and you can market them however you want. In the entertainment industry, you are marketing yourself.
Yes.
You are literally selling who I am, how I look, what I talk like, what I think, all of that on social media. You're selling that. And that can be so toxic to your brain. And you do have to get to a point where you're like, okay, I make music. This is what I do. This is who I am. Have that. And then remove, like separate from the apps. Cause it's just like so toxic to constantly be hoping for the viral tweet or viral TikTok or something like that. And we have to step out of that space.
Yeah, to be completely honest, I am one of those people that I really do love social media for what it is, because none of us would have the career that we do, like the independent artist career, without social media. Like
Absolutely.
It has been massively instrumental in all of us being able to do what we want to do. The only aspect that I really hate about social media is the chasing the virality and chasing the algorithm constantly. So like one of the things that I'm really trying to do and trying to focus on with my social media is just being authentic to me and like being who I am. And if doing video content is not authentic to me, I'm only gonna do it when I feel like it. Like I'm not gonna go out of my way to try and chase all these viral trends, because it just doesn't make sense for me. And if that means that I'm gonna very, very slowly grow my TikTok following, then that's fine. I'm okay with that. Yeah. And like I was definitely lucky that I was able to grow my Instagram during the time when like photos were all the rage. And it's kind of crazy to like see the difference. And I have to also like remind myself all the time, just because you used to get 3,000 likes on a photo doesn't mean that it's your fault that you're not getting that anymore. It's because Instagram has changed its algorithm. It's not on you, it's on them. It's like just reminding yourself that the comparison factor is going to ruin everything. Like you just have to do what's best for you and not compare yourself to other people and other creators.
Because you get wrapped up in that, and then it can like ruin your day. Like I've literally had days where, like I get up and I'm like, wow, like they don't really care. Like it's not, da da da. And everybody's like the star of their own story. Obviously, like you're living your own life. We're all living our own lives. And it just gets in your head sometimes to where you like let this thing that has nothing to do with how your personal life or your career is going.
Yeah, your self-worth.
Yes. Yeah. And I definitely, it has these like long-term ramifications, and I would say 1 in every 2 people are like addicted to it. It's definitely addiction.
I would say more than that. I think
probably more than that.
Yeah. Especially since we've been stuck inside with the pandemic for 2 years. Like I know everyone's screen time went up tenfold. I know mine did. Like,
oh yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, it's such an interesting like juxtaposition because it is such a good tool, but it's also like can be a slippery slope of your self-worth getting roped into, did I get enough likes on this photo, which is fucking insane.
Yeah.
The fact that we say that, even like the fact even saying that out loud is just like, what?
Yeah.
Rough.
And it's interesting too, because just because you have a huge Instagram following or get a bunch of likes on a photo doesn't mean that your music following is growing. You know, it doesn't mean your Spotify followers are growing. It doesn't mean your streaming numbers are growing. It doesn't mean anything other than not anything, because a lot of the times it does. But it's interesting to see the correlations where like, I genuinely don't believe you have to have a huge Instagram following or TikTok following or something like that for your music to grow. And I think that's daunting for a lot of new artists to be like, if I don't have 100,000 Instagram followers, I'm going to fail.
Yep. Oh,
I
absolutely.
had almost 30,000 followers on Instagram, and it never translated to listeners.
Right.
Never.
Which is so cool that you're
So-
able to share content and have those people interact with your Instagram content. But how do we shift the
but
attention?
I learned, yeah, exactly. But I learned, like, obviously I learned the hard way. It doesn't really matter, like, how many followers you have on Instagram if they're not turning into clicks on your music. Like, that's what's
Absolutely.
most important. So I don't think it's super important to grow your Instagram following as fast as you can. I think it's super important because that's not what I did. I did the opposite and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So just
It's
learn from my mistakes and don't do that.
It's most important to tell the authentic story. It's most important to show up as yourself. And if that resonates with people, then eventually, yeah, it is going to translate into listens and streams and actual real fans, not people that are like, oh, you're hot, I'm going to follow you on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To oversimplify it, but you know.
No,
But that's exactly what it is. Exactly.
That's exactly what it is. It's exactly like, but it's all of these things that feed into this like wheel of things that we have to hone in as we present this like as ourself. Because to say that, you know, talent buyers, especially like in this niche industry, don't look at your social media following is not true. You know, they definitely do. And you've seen people pop off because of their social media following. And then that translates into their music. But you've also had people pop off from their social media following. And then 2 years later, they're lower than they were before because there was never any organic growth and there was never any, it was like a plug and play kind of deal. And there's so many people. I mean, you see it on like corporate agencies, you see it on boutique agencies where there are these placeholders that for some out of 100 reasons are on the agency and they fill this placeholder. And the people that I feel like are able to, you know, live the career to the fullest and have the longest career shelf life are the ones that are like kind of building those houses out of brick, and they're gonna take longer to build. But as long as you're building your organic base and your organic following from that, like that's all that matters, because you're like, okay, are these bots gonna like buy my merch or buy my tickets or like buy this?
Are they gonna show up at shows? No, they're not.
Or am I just gonna have like
men asking me for feet pictures or not buying my merch? I can promise.
not at all. And I mean, I definitely think that's something else too that guys don't like traditionally deal with, where I mean, I get it, like you have the rave girls that are like all in it for the DJs, like for sure. But as like a woman, it's really it can be like a really muddy line to toe where you're like, okay, like is she an artist or is she like an influencer or is she like a hot girl DJ?
And you have to be both.
And you have
to be both.
All of them.
And you gotta be all of them. And to like clearly communicate a message takes time. And I think that's just building on like the foundation and roots that, you know, you hold true to yourself and then like continuing on. And it is a long journey. I mean, you guys just said you've been doing top lines for like 6-7 years. Like this is a long road. And like most of the time before you know somebody, they've been doing it for 10 years. You get that mid to late 20s that you really start to see somebody like come into their own. There's very, very few people just kind of snap and make it happen. And those people usually aren't around 5 years from now, 4 years from now.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's actually something that like, especially like was probably like 5 years ago when I was younger, I was like, it was hard for me to set aside the comparison factor. Cause me at 25, I was like, why are these 21-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds doing so much better than me when I've been when I've been working at this for so long? And it was really hard to turn that off. But now that I'm, full time and getting a little bit more integrated into the industry, and I'm a lot more established as an artist now, I realized that I just wasn't ready. Like,
oh my gosh, that's such a big part of the whole thing.
And it's like, if it had happened to me then, I wouldn't have been as good at it as I am now. So I'm really glad that it didn't happen for me until later. But it was really hard for my younger brain to be like, hey, stop comparing yourself to other people. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. For me, in the last 2 years, there have been some very distinct collaborations or moments or opportunities that have come up that I had been approached with previously when I was like 20, 21. And they didn't happen back then. And I was so angry. And I so much let it affect my self-worth and was like, I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be good enough. Why am I doing this? And then they happen now. And it's like, that's why. Because at 20, I was not ready. I didn't care about myself enough. I didn't have the stability or the awareness or capacity to take this on back then. And had I been handed these opportunities, I would have fumbled it completely. Whereas now it's like, you can kind of look back at your path and at your life and be like, these specific things that didn't fall into place back then were for very specific reasons. And looking at it now and having that gratitude of like, damn, like, good job, younger me. That sucked. That was discouraging as all fuck. And we still did it. Like, we're still here. And it goes back to so much gratitude of like those moments that are so discouraging and defeating, and freaking doing this full time is not easy.
No.
And holding on to that like hope and faith in yourself and in your career that these things are going to be for a specific reason in the future.
Oh, absolutely. And I think sometimes if I've seen, those people where it happens at a very young age. And I think my thing is when you get that opportunity that like might not come twice, or you get to this higher place, or you sign with that agent that you're not really ready to sign with, or you're not really going to be a key player in their clientele, you can't go back on certain things. So like waiting until you're ready and realizing that certain things are happening for certain reasons. And even though it like pisses you off to all ends of the time, and like you question your career, you question, am I doing the right thing? Is this, making me happy? Like, is this like kind of like crumbling in? Once you get to that other side, you realize that like it all happened for a reason, and you wouldn't be able to bring those experiences to your current moments or opportunities if you didn't have them happen to you in the first place, and it was all just handed to you on a silver platter. Because usually those people end up like setting themselves on fire. And it's just things where it's like, it does take time. It's like anything. It's like if you were sitting, at a corporate salary paid position and you were trying to get to the promotion, you were trying to get the next level. And like, that's what we do in our career, but we feel like it's never ending because there's so many things to keep moving forward on. And there's not like this piece of paper that goes, here, this is A to Z. And here's a gold star. And here's your, here's your salary increase, and here's this, and here's that, and all those things that are implemented into our society in a normal, structured 9-to-5 working job. We have to create all those things in our own head and still tell ourselves that we're okay and that we're doing better and we're progressing. And it's just, it's definitely mentally tiring at times. And I think that's why having that differentiation between your career and yourself and the things that are making you feel fulfilled and the things that you're doing to pay your bills are all so important. Like, so important.
Yeah, I wish people told me that when I first started. Was like,
me too.
I mean, everybody says it takes forever, right? But you're like, no, I'm going to be one of those people that just like pops up and gets everything that they want. That's everyone's dream.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I would have understood back then, like what I know now, as cliche as that is, to develop balance and not think that you have to work every second of every day to achieve your goals and stuff like that. And I feel like that's something that's come up a lot since the pandemic as well. Is I think people's focus has shifted from being absolute workaholics to like, is this making me happy? Am I living a sustainable life? Am I finding joy in things? Am I making, vulnerable interpersonal connections and stuff like that? Whereas for me, at least, when I first started, I was just like, don't talk to me. I'm writing. Like, I'm going to succeed with this.
Yeah. And I mean, there's nothing more kind of sad to see when somebody's extremely successful in their career and then they like don't have anybody else around them or they feel like they're
Yeah.
completely isolated. And I think one thing that a lot of people saw when we went into COVID was that we all existed in like this scene and the scene that like was funded off of like or fueled by like social interaction and like your friends were the other people that you saw at the events and da 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 da. And what happens when that all goes away, which obviously as we were shown can so easily happen,
Yeah.
and then that brings you back to like, okay, is like my personal life fulfilled? Because like at the end of your time on like this earth, you would like to say that, you've like led a happy life. And I think knowing when to like buckle down and grind, but also knowing when to put your personal like mental health and physical health in front of that is really hard and really difficult and something that people eventually figure out over time through their journey because it's something where you do want to balance both because if one disappears you want to have the other.
Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, exactly. I think one of the big things that the pandemic really helped me with, because I was literally bartending up until the day that they shut the world down. And so on weekends, I was out every single night bartending until 3 in the morning. I wouldn't get home until 5. And like it, and a lot of my friends were my coworkers there and like the people that I was with there and not necessarily a bunch of music people. So the pandemic really helped me take a step back and realize like what relationships were authentic, genuine friendships, or were they just drinking buddies from work? Or, what of these relationships is actually benefiting me, emotionally, socially, through work, like going through and like really evaluating all of my relationships and seeing like what's worth holding on to. And when you literally can't see anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that like even translates to where a lot of the relationships you see within our community like aren't genuine sometimes because it's like, who can I be friends with? Who can help me get to the next level or who can
Hate
open
that.
the door to me? And yeah, and it's just like a really toxic like business structure to kind of rely your career on is if you're just kind of trying to meet the next person that can open the next door for you. And I think the most opportunities that have been like kind of fallen on my plate are from genuine friendships and like realizing that you're not going to be friends with every DJ. You're not going to be friends with every vocalist. It's just like sitting at the kids' table at school. Like you're not going to click with everybody, like you're not going to have that like intimate discussion about your life with, the guy playing after you on the stage, So it's, I don't know. It's just finding that that time to take a step back and evaluate where you're at and find those like genuine friendships. Because especially as performers too, when you're at a show and you're performing or when you're in a club or whatever, it's like, yeah, everybody wants to be your friend. Like you're the one with the artist band, like you're the one who's performing and you're the one, you're the special guest vocalist. But when you're not at a show, you're not at a festival, who cares to see if you're okay? And like those are those moments where you're like, oh, okay, like this person actually gives a shit.
I think as far as like the relationships in the industry, I think it's really interesting too, because if people are constantly going into it, like what can this person's friendship do to benefit me? I don't think that's like ever going to be a sustainable way to like make real connections. And so the way that I've always looked at it, making friends in the industry is not what they have to offer, but it's like, is this friendship like worth it for both of us just to like have a connection? And if something happens from it, dope. If nothing happens from it, who cares? Like, not a big deal. At least then I still have a genuine friend. And I think that's like the most important way to look at it.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, 100%.
I think it's evident too with like how many artists have moved out of LA after the pandemic. There was there still is obviously a lot of pressure to be there. undeniably, if you're in a hotspot for the industry, you're going to have more in-person sessions, you're going to have more opportunities, whatever. But also there was this shift of like, does living here make me happy? Does living here fulfill the needs that I have as a human being? And so many people. Well, okay, so that's like, yeah, is it actually for you? Is it for you? Is that energy what makes you happy? And we're seeing that like the industry doesn't balance on a point, which is LA. The industry is going to keep moving and it's going to keep growing and you're going to keep growing and stuff like that outside of it, as long as you're finding your healthy balance where you're happy and stuff like that. Super interesting. Obviously, I still always feel the pressure to move to LA, but it's good to kind of see the shift. I know. Ocean.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I really do love Los Angeles. However, it's not for everybody, and that's okay. I moved out of Los Angeles for like personal reasons with my boyfriend. He had he had a family member pass away and he had to come move down to Orange County to manage the estate. So because we're in a long-term relationship and he is like my partner and I love him, I was like, screw it. I can work from anywhere. So let's go take care of your thing. And then next year we'll take care of my thing. And so as of this year, we're going to move a little bit closer back up to LA, but still be in Orange County so that he can handle all his stuff in Orange County and I can handle all my stuff in Los Angeles. So it's, it's about finding the right life balance for both of you. However, I miss LA.
Yeah, I was in LA for a show I was my first time in LA since I was like 12 or 13. And there's like so many parts of it that are like so awesome. Like you just feel this like energy when you're around certain people and it's like a lot more creative. Like there's so many people that I think have like this very creative but yet ambitious mindset, and I think that's super inspiring to be around. But there's also this side where it's not right for everybody, and I feel like I feel like I was like, oh my god, I'm so in love, da 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 da, but I'm also like, ooh, I kind of like my space and I like being in a home and I like having my studio and I like these certain things. So like finding that balance is super important. And it's also like kind of what you said, like finding just that compromise is, I'm in Florida now, which I'm not a fan of. And so we're actually moving to Denver at the end of this month.
Denver is the spot to be.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. We're going out this weekend to hopefully find a place and apply and like lease it for a year, and then hopefully at the end of next year we'll buy. But I've been in Florida for like my whole life, but now I'm like an hour away, $75 flight, $150 round trip flight to LA. So it's like now this is like a lot more realistic being on the West Coast to go to LA if I need to go to LA, and it's not like this week-long trip where you got this time change and it's a 7-hour flight and like all of this other stuff. So like finding that balance, and I love Denver and I'm just like,
I miss it so much.
I hope I'll be bugging you all the time.
So I'm excited, and like Florida's great. I just like, I'm pale. I don't like the beach. I don't like the sea. Like, I don't like anything that I should be a fan of for being there. And like, even my dog's a husky. Like, we just love like the cold, the snowboarding. Like, I want to be able to like go places and find inspiration from like the nature around me and like all that stuff, which it'll be cool. And I think moving places helps you grow, whether it's like to somewhere or back home or whatever. And so I'm really excited for that. And just especially as like an artist, you're like, okay, this is gonna be like a cool experience and like a building experience. But I really appreciate you guys coming on. It means a lot that you guys came on and talked about your experiences and stuff. Before I let you guys go, if you guys could just give like one or two pieces of, I would say, like advice to maybe like a vocalist or an aspiring top liner to like break into the industry, like stuff that wasn't necessarily told to you. I know we covered so many things in the podcast that I think will help a lot of girls and men who want to break into this industry, but things that you would have liked to know specifically before you kind of jumped bridges.
Tell you.
Okay. So first and foremost, and I really do tell this to everyone, I think it's really important if you are entering the industry as a vocalist, to be well informed in your subject, like understand a decent amount of music theory, really like understand your craft, and above all else, most importantly, understand vocal processing. And I know like doing it is not going to be for everybody, but to be able to hear the vocal processing and come back and say, hey, I think it's missing this, is like a really important skill to have as a vocalist. And also, if you want to like charge a decent amount, do your own vocal processing, because then like you are providing the full package. So it's really, I really do think it's an important skill for every vocalist to learn, at least on a basic level. That's like number one, first and foremost. And second, the music industry is literally all about connections. It's all about making authentic, genuine connections, like we just talked about. So don't be afraid to reach out to people. Don't be afraid to get on Twitter and tweet at people. Like that's how I got half of my collabs, was just trolling on Twitter. Just don't be afraid to be yourself, put your personality out there and be genuine, because people will respond to that. And that's how you're going to be able to build and grow in the industry.
Awesome. Thank you. No, that's so great. And I almost want to like get into the topic of vocal processing, but we'll save that for another conversation. I know that's like a 3-hour talk in itself. But yeah, like just basically like take the time to like understand music theory and understand that a huge bout of producers, especially coming in as like an aspiring top liner, you're working with newer artists, a lot of producers don't understand music theory. So like if you can understand the basics of music theory, like you will be that much more ahead. And then just like learn the basics of compression, learn the basics of EQing, so you can at least give them an idea of like what you want if you're not doing your own.
So shameless plug, I have a Patreon where I teach all of this stuff.
Yes. I'm going to put her Patreon and mine in there. And, and then we'll just go back. Cause I do the same thing. Like when with like my students, I'm like, you guys need to learn like music theory. I'm like, I get it. Staying on the root note is cool. But like, if you ever aspire to like work with vocalists, if you ever aspire to do things that are more in that melodic realm, like you have to be knowledgeable about what key you're writing in, what you know?
Yes.
Cool. Yes. Okay. What about you, Kate?
I am actually on the complete opposite side of that. I agree with it 100%, but I'm not classically trained at all. Yeah. So for me, my main thing is like, be hungry for it enough that you find your way around the obstacles that you think are in front of you. You don't need an $8,000 mic. You don't need the craziest interface. You don't need XYZ thing. You know, if you're hungry for something, be willing enough to find ways around it and ask for help and ask for guidance. And for me, that's like my biggest thing is like, I don't have the most expensive mic. I don't have the most expensive interface, but I wanted this. Me neither. So I'm doing it. So like, don't be discouraged by, I guess what I'm trying to say is don't be discouraged by where you need to go, like what you need to learn, where you need to go. If you're hungry for it, just go get it and you will find like your avenue. I guess I agree 100%. Reach out to people, get help. We're obviously always available. And then my biggest thing, back to mental health, understand that this industry is tough. It's tough work-wise, you know, hours, but it's also hard on your mental health. So before you deep dive into this, make sure that you're checking in on yourself, asking how you're doing, checking in on your brain, what do you need, and making sure that your needs as a human being are being met so that you can show up the best yourself to make those songs as well.
100%. And I think a lot of people who are aspiring to do this, you know, they want to prepare themselves for like the ultimate situation, and you're never going to be prepared for the ultimate situation. So like sometimes throwing yourself in where you know you're going to be in like high waters is like the way that you're going to grow. And what you just said is what I've heard so many producers say, is that like work with what you have. You don't need the hardware synth. You don't need the Apollo. You don't need the $700 mic. You don't need to have a sound treated room. Like it's very basic, the essentials that are needed in order for you to make music that is signable and releasable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like one of the most beautiful things about music, like one of the most beautiful things for me is that like we never stop learning because there never stops being something to learn. So like it doesn't matter how knowledgeable you are. You could think you know everything there is to know about vocal production, then someone's going to come up with a new method the next day, you know? It's a never-ending process. So like obviously have the hunger to learn, but don't be afraid to jump in while you're still learning. I think that's like the best combination of everyone's advice there.
Yeah, learn to love to learn.
Yes.
Be ready for it, because it's there. You're always going to be like, I have no idea how to do this, but let's figure it out, you know?
100%. And that's the only way you're going to be put in situations where you're working with people who do know at least a little bit more than you. Like, don't always be like, oh my God, I have to know how to do this and know how to do this and know how to do this before I put the demo together to send to this person, because that's just not an ideal working situation. Like, you're not always going to be 100% ready. But I love to learn. Yeah, because you're always learning and you're always going to learn something from somebody else. Every time I see some like under the hood of somebody's like vocal chain, I'm like, oh, that's a really good little thing right there. Like that I could definitely use on mine. Yeah. 100%. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you.
You guys have been killing it, and I'm really, really excited to see where the rest of 2022 goes for you guys. And you know, hopefully, there will be another show that we can all perform together where I don't get COVID. That would be
yes, please.
That'd be amazing. Awesome. Okay, sweet. I'm gonna stop recording real quick. All right, thank you guys.